In our society, it talks about the Trinity.
And that's lost in birth. It's lost in it's lost in life. It might even be lost in midwifery. I'm not really so sure that even the midwives get that.
The mother and the father and the child.
When they are there, this is a soul coming in. This is the divine. And I've said before that what an awesome job.
People need to be educated and healed as far as how they were violated, and then educated on what is birth, what is the psychological and life significance and the psychological state of the mother and father when the human is being conceived.
This is Bear Bear.
Bear Bear. Hey, Bear Bear.
And Leona.
Look at that.
And her shirt says, I'm the big sister of a home birth baby, and I'm a home birth daddy.
If we all have an understanding of how big that is and that it does imprint on the brain that grows in this creation, then we can heal every problem in the world.
The rough handling, yeah. I'll put it to you this way: when I am in someone else's home, especially someone that is in their 60s and above, that has had more life experience than I have, and they're telling me about things or they're showing me something, you pick up certain things that have no real significance except for to that person. And you touch them in ways like they're a relic or that they're the finest china. It's a matter of respect. When you pick up something that is important to someone else, even if it's not fragile, it could be his trophy that's made of brass and wood and solid as a rock, but you handle it gently and you touch it where you almost don't want to put fingerprints on it. You give something that means something to someone else, you give it respect in the way you handle it, in the way you meet eye contact with them. I do feel a lot of times that's not what you get in the hospital. This is now the most precious thing in your life. And to have it just be moved around, why can't they give, I'm not saying they're harming the child. That's a question. But all I do know is that I want them at that moment to give this new being respect. For me, give me the respect to say, this is now the most important thing in my life. Can you treat it as the most fragile thing in the world? I want them to give me the respect, to have the empathy. I know they've done this 100 times. I know this is just another birth, but it's my first.
I'm very supportive of having fathers present the entire time, and sometimes I'll even let the fathers help deliver their babies. Okay, we put the hands on it. When the baby's arms come out, then I have the mothers reach down and grab the babies by the arms and pull their own baby up onto their chest. So they both partake in it. And then the father's sitting there kind of like doesn't know what to do, and I say, touch your baby. And they say, do I have to wash my hands? No, it's your baby, touch your baby. You know, it's not going to break, it's not fragile, you know. And they get into it, and suddenly they're into it. And it needs to be lauded and encouraged for fathers to be participants in this whole thing.
And to love myself, yes, through it all. Yes, no matter whatever happens, no matter how I'm ever seen, I would remember now
the whole orientation of the child and the brain itself is becoming oriented around the environment provided mostly by mother and father.
I am a beautiful expression of the one love. Yes, I'm a beautiful expression of the one.
That's why it's true to say to the parents, you are the architects of your baby's brain in the womb. No doctor is going to do it. They can't reach it. The parents are there every day.
My dad he was in the...
We could wait too.
It's okay. He wasn't in the waiting room or anything. But I never talked to him like, what's it like? What do you do? How do you... What is a person's role? I mean, like, giving birth, like, obviously, you know what's expected of you, but how do you support, how do you show emotional support is a question that's never really asked.
You know, the fathers would welcome training if you would just give it to them. They want to be full participants, and it would be better for the baby. And if you think making better babies is the way to make a better world, you better start, you know, including the fathers, because in the beginning, they're half the equation.
I am a beautiful expression
from the beginning
of the one love.
You know, the prenatal experience is so foundational. That's the important thing to impart.
The fundamental idea of any growing baby is to adapt, because it has to adapt. It has to be ready. It has 9 months to go from a couple of cells to hopefully a two-legged, two-armed being with a head and 5 senses and a digestive system and so forth. And it has to come in ready to adapt in a very fragile and intimate state. So the baby is constantly listening, tuning in. Every emotion that the mother has, the baby has the peptides flowing through its own body. On a chemical basis, its consciousness is tuned in. It may not know the words, but it knows the feelings and the experience. It begins to get the adaptive environment of the family.
That the same kinds of mechanisms of nutritional thrift that a fetus develops around lack of nutritional resources like food or oxygen, another very big one if the mother's smoking, the fetus can also develop these mechanisms of relational thrift. You might put it that way. That, oh, there's no one really there for me. I'm kind of on my own here. And that's how early that dynamic can start.
The parents are there every day, shaping, forming that brain. Now, most parents never thought of that.
Is the family express their heart? Do they deny that? Are they an angry family? Are they tight? Are they weak? Are they dense? How does the family hold this in their body? Because that's the style that allows that family to survive in that milieu. Babies learn this.
Then, of course, at birth you have that separation, which then just recapitulates that earlier perceived sense of disconnection.
But once, if you can trust that idea and just go for it, it means that every day you're loving your child, welcoming your child, feeding the mother and protecting the mother so she gets the best nutrition, the best supplies, adequate supplies for the construction of the baby's body. And this is why it's incredibly formative and influential all these days between conception and birth, every day.
You know, you see the old 60s and 70s sitcoms where the father is just out there pacing, smoking cigarettes, and then somebody just bursts out and tells them, and then they get an opportunity later to go to the glass and see them all lined up, and a nurse comes and shows the baby. You know, you laugh at all of that, and I'm thankful that we're not in that place anymore, but I do still feel a certain amount of, you got to be over here, sir. Things have changed, we'll allow you in the room, but that's about the best you can do. Then they just, you know, made the call of, okay, we've got a problem here, we've got to do a C-section. She's rushed off, and I am out in the hall, you know, now I'm doing the pacing after all. I am on the other side of the glass.
That experience of being there at the time of the birth, of that magical moment when the child comes into being, to experience the wife's, the mother's excitement on seeing the baby, and the bonding that takes place really between the three people is really quite incredible. And to not have that experience is a definite loss.
He's a dad. He's the complement to the mom, and he has his role as dad to fulfill.
Okay.
I am a beautiful expression of the one love. I am a beautiful expression of the one.
You know, in the history of humanity, and now they're finding human remains 20 million years old, and it'll keep evolving. As they, you know, dig deeper, they find more and more history of civilization, probably much older than that. But let's just take recorded history, the last 16,000 years, 20,000 years. Children were born at home. They weren't born in hospitals. And humanity has survived and has moved on and is evolving. And it has done this, almost all of this, not in hospitals, you know, but in home births. Had nothing to do with Western medicine whatsoever. Now, Western medicine, you know, has its strengths. In emergency care, it's second to none. But in some areas, it's devolved because they look at it, I think, too much with the eye of profit, in profitability, as opposed to what is the greater good and what is the real true need, you know, not only of the human body, but of the human soul. The medical industry doesn't address that anywhere whatsoever.
But if we're honest with ourselves, we'll admit that too many fathers are also missing. Too many fathers are MIA.
And we got in the car and we went to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, they took her away, and they took her and my baby away from me. And I was sent off somewhere else, and I assert myself back into the system. But when that birth happened, I lost a connection with her that I never regained.
I feel an inner tremble because of going through that process, and that no one can take that from us.
For sure. The connection I have with my son from being there and watching him come out and being one of the first people to hold him is without a doubt our connection that nobody can take away from us. And my daughter, her head came out, and it's funny, just as her head popped out, and I looked at her mom, I was like, I wasn't sure if I should cry or jump up for joy, but I was focused like, okay, now's not the time.
At the other end of the spectrum, there are those people for whom having a child is really a spiritual experience. There's something sacred about the creation of a new life and about welcoming that new life into the world.
You know, we have such a sterile environment, and you know, it's birth is a lot. You know, at least in my experience, I mean, it's a transition. I mean, we're transitioning from the womb world to this world, and it's a time of joy, and we've made it such a sterile environment. I mean, where there's no interaction. I mean, I don't know how you would like it, but I don't know if you'd like it if you woke up and there was, you know, bright fluorescent lights shining right in your face, and you know, and these strange people with masks standing above you. I mean, that's a sterile environment, and we have, I mean, and that's because we're all afraid that somebody's going to get sick. You know, we got to relook at the way we handle birth and even death. I mean, you know, we make that such a sterile thing.
If we're alive, we're going to have pain, we're going to live, we're going to die. Birth and death become part of the whole process.
It is I mean, coming into the world, which they've already been in because they've been in the mom, but coming into this world, from this universe into this universe, and going out of it, I mean, those are the two most profound times of our lives.
You know, we've been giving birth for years and years and years, you know, and hospitals cause more illness than anything else. So, I mean, you know, we got to relook at the way we handle birth and even death.
That it has been broken for a long time. That women and babies and birth, this is not since I was born or you were born or anyone. This is from time.
But if I had to pick a place, I would probably have to say, or I would say, the Inquisition in Europe, where a certain Catholicism went after the goddess, went after the feminine principle, specifically after women, targeted women for death and persecution.
You know, my paternal lineage comes from that area in Germany where there were whole towns where all the women were killed.
To place a male-dominant role on a society which has completely created an imbalance that's everywhere.
I felt that. I saw that. I experienced that. That is my deep anger.
So that's, if I had to choose a place, Janelle, that's where I would go. I would probably say the Inquisition, because the damage that did, not only to those societies and countries, but also to the psyche of humanity, cannot be underestimated in any way, shape, or form.
Women, because it is so powerful, because we do have this unbroken lineage, because we carry our grandchildren in our bodies. because we have this power, to bring forth this next generation. We are there at that moment. We choose what that moment is.
The feminine needs a very responsible partner. Now that partner has to be the male energy. Right now the male energy is completely out of balance. Even within itself, it's completely out of balance.
That uninterrupted line, that uninterrupted lineage that comes through that cord, that history we have to accept and we have to acknowledge.
I think it has been acting out everywhere. We have created cultures of war and generations of war, economies based on war, where it's all about war.
And this relates to birth?
I think so. Here are children coming into the world, and essentially the first thing that happens is, they probably feel like they're being attacked. Tubes shoved up their nose and suction things down their throat, and their nose inspected or mutilated, being given vaccine shots. They have no idea what the hell's going on. The father is usually behind the glass or not even in the room.
They're in there with their babies, but there's some invisible wall that they are having difficulty reaching across.
If he's saying anything, it's being overridden by nurses and a doctor who the baby doesn't know.
All right. Time to go to mommy? He's beautiful. Time to go to mommy now? We're going to wrap him up in a blanket and we'll get him in just a second. We have to make an assessment of him, okay?
We know about the two common sorts of understandings of the sympathetic nervous system. That's fight or flight in an overwhelming situation. There's a third option, which is sort of a safeguard option, and that's the freeze response, or the immobility response.
In a different situation, like if we were just sitting here right now and somebody came along and did that to my child, there's no way I'd ever let them touch him like that. But when you're in the hospital and it's their rules and their turf and you're, lacking food and sleep and everything else.
In that situation, tremendous energies are built up in the system of the person, but they're sort of internalized as something that never really gets completed in terms of bringing energy and blood out to the muscles and fully mobilizing a fight or flight response. And so the freeze response, I think, is often happening with the dad in a hospital situation.
Can't hide from the nurse, sorry. Gentle. Can't hide from the nurse. Run from the doctor, but you can't hide from the nurse. There we go. Let's get Can't hide from the nurse, sorry. Gentle. Can't hide from the nurse. You can run from the doctor, but you can't hide from the nurse. There we go. Let's get There you go.
Oh, she's talking to the baby?
Uh-huh.
You can
Run from the doctor, but you can't
hide from the nurse.
And did you hear the father? Gentle, please.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh.
Run from the doctor, but you can't hide from the nurse. There we go. Let's get There you go. All right. Time to go to mommy? He's beautiful. Time to go to mommy now? We're going to wrap him up in a blanket and we'll get him in just a second. We have to make an assessment of him, okay?
And the mother is being cared to, but she's apart from the baby. I mean, in hindsight, looking at this, it's a profound contradiction of love and tenderness. Profound.
And then they're sent home at 24 hours or 72 hours. How the heck is she supposed to know that she does know anything? Because if you leave a mama baby uninterrupted, and maybe after they're nursing and kind of messing around for a while, you might take a look and maybe okay, let's get you a little more belly to belly. And then you look away and let the mom figure out what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? That mom knows that she figured it out, not that somebody told her and interrupted her.
And it really is food for thought as to, you know, God, what are we doing?
And that I have power. She's going to have the power. I'm leaving. Mamas know, not me. You know, if you don't interrupt them, then the mama baby works. And if you do interrupt them, the mama baby doesn't work so hot. I think at that time we need some silence and some quietness and just allow the mom, usually the mom and dad are crying, and it's just so the most precious, holiest time in the whole universe.
Oh, very kind. Oh, Tyree, you're doing it. Jessica, you're doing it. Okay, all right, ready? Up to mama.
I can see it clearly there too. But even when it's slow, when it's a, you know, gentle, that was not gentle.
And just allow that mama baby, and in fact the mama daddy baby, but I like calling it a mama baby because they're not separate, they're still connected so strongly. Just allow that mama baby unit to be left alone for a few minutes.
That part was not gentle, and that was the most important moment. That was the most important moment of all that work I did, and he did, and Clay did. All that work of conception and growing this baby and putting intention around how we were going to birth her. And it was perfect up until that moment when this woman, and even she supported us, I feel, you know, during the labor. I hadn't looked in her eyes, and I was just like trying to take in that she was out of me. And but I think that was rushed, because if she was down here, still in the water, her father and I could have, who knows how it would have went. It would have been either, I have a feeling she may have looked in his eyes first, and I'm okay with that. You know, whatever it would have been, but it would have been the father, the mother, and the baby. And the father, I don't believe in this, that fathers and men have no place in birth. The humans wouldn't be there. It takes the vagina and the penis, the egg and the seed. Later found out that she was annoyed by some things that we did during the labor, the way we prayed, the way I moaned, the way he moaned with me, the Baha'i prayers we would chant. But that's ours. It doesn't matter. And she didn't show that bothered her, but her energy was there. Even though I was just in another world, so even if she was acting annoyed or behind my back rolling her eyes, I didn't know that.
My baby. I did it! I did it!
I did it. You did a great job. We did it. We did it. All three of us. Oh.
It's all about you.
Do you want to read the book? Why don't you read it, Mom?
So we're being quiet and just allowing the mama baby to kind of say howdy and smell each other and have that moment. I'm watching for bleeding. I'm checking that the baby's breathing. I'm doing the APGARs, but I'm unobtrusive. I don't need to do big things to check if a baby's okay or not okay.
Her best judgment as the doctor for the possible respiratory needs, I think she said, or I don't remember what she said. In that moment, she thought she needed to get her out of the water to make sure she was getting air or something. But I'm thinking, haven't you seen Birth as We Know It? What about how she came out? Why? What about, why did she need to be pulled immediately out of the water? And it was because of how she felt about the father.
So you can run from the doctor, but you can't hide from the nurse. That's about the nurse's relationship with the doctor. And she's putting the baby in the middle of that. I mean, what place, that has no place there.
And so with whatever human beings are present at this immense, indescribable moment, which is birth, which we've all been born, obviously, if we're here.
It was about her. You know, where did that come from? You know, what she said had nothing to do with the baby, the mom, and the dad.
The more human beings that are created in gentleness and respect and allowed to come in at the time and in the way that they are meant to by their source and by their own self and power and by their mother's power.
Hopefully we can rise above that and begin to have something that comes closer to bringing the father in and having the father be a part of the process, to somehow of training the personnel.
I think we need more education, and that education needs to come from a very holistic, baby-centered connection focus.
It's rare that there is a consciousness of how the sanctity of the birth and the experience for the mother, the baby, and the father, that family configuration, whoever they may be.
The more human beings that are created that are like this, then we can get to a place where, yes, midwife or doula is present, grandmother or grandfather can be present, sister or brother can be present, sister or brother or sisters or brothers of the baby coming in can be present, but all these people will be whole in their masculine and feminine and whole in their self as a human being, and will know how to carry themselves energetically.
I think it really all starts with the mother-baby, and I think if you have a mother who
the baby comes out and she is the one who picks the baby up. There are no hats, no bulbs, no other hands. She brings the baby up, and what they do naturally, people are astounded when they see what human birth really looks like.
As we move towards this way of birth, they will have the opportunity, by this new soul coming in, to do their own healing work from their birth. So these new humans coming in, and the more we realize about the significance of conception and gestation and birth, every new human that comes in provides an opportunity for more healing of the humans that are already here, to honor this new life. I will figure out my own masculine and feminine. I will know why it's important to move myself out of the way if I am going to be present for this incredible occurrence.
Today, I'm sorry. All right. Time to go to mommy? He's beautiful. Time to go to mommy now? We're going to wrap him up in a blanket and we'll get him to you in just a second. We have to make an assessment of it, okay?
So while you're a fresh parent and you're lightly coddling the baby, not even wanting to depress its flesh so much that it percolate a drop of sweat. They are taking your baby, they are grabbing it by their feet, they are flipping it over, they are applying ointments, they are doing their job, and they are doing it quickly, and they are doing it under heat lamps, and the baby's naked and the baby's crying, and and they're just doing their thing.
Everybody has individual rights, and yet we treat our newborns in such a way that we really don't honor them. Or the family. It's remarkable. It's really quite a contradiction.
And you sit there and you can realize that, oh, this is your job day in and day out. And some of them are at the end of their shift, and we all know how it's like to get off at the end of work, and you just don't want to be there anymore, man, and you're building houses, and yeah, that wall may not be straight, but I'll do it tomorrow, or I don't even care, right? Just put it up, just put the burger on the plate, let's sell it, come on, let's go, So people are doing that with your child. That's part of the hospital experience,
So that I can be there as a witness and not not a giver or a taker, just a witness. Your energy, if it's given and it's needed to be given, should only be by the consent of the baby first, through the mother's voice, through the father's permission. And until midwives and doulas and obstetricians and nurses are healed, and the whole system of how we birth in especially these industrialized nations with hospitals, but even other places in the world may do violations they don't know they're doing. Then we will know that we can trust the mother and the father, that we will know that the baby is communicating with its seed and its egg and its source. And because we'll be healed as midwife or doula or doctor or nurse or grandmother or friend or sister or brother, we will never violate. And let's say And I think the more this happens in layers over the next decades and centuries, that peace will be, because it's so simple. It's really beautiful, though, the layers that will happen through all the new humans coming in, but it's a process of learning, and people have to be educated. But what I was going to say is, the more this happens in the way that it's meant to happen, the less interventions will be necessary.
Maybe I just presumed from our conversations and your work that you also see the baby as sacred.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Babies are sacred. It's all sacred. Life is sacred.
We really need to wake up and look at this as a sacred time. It is the most sacred time in our lives.
Material civilization that we have now is not complete, just like the equality of men and women. It's not complete without the divine civilization that's in place. Because if they don't work together, technology will run rampant, and we'll have more things that kill us than heal us. You know, right now they're charging for C-sections, they're charging this for this, they're charging this for this. Pharmaceutical reps come in and say, you know, doctors give this and you give this. And so it's so corrupt. It's very corrupt.
They have filled themselves with self-imposed loneliness, which is why they can't connect, which only generates more anger, more separation, more rage, which in turn creates more violence. Okay, because there's a lack of respect for life when you completely disconnect from it, regardless of your reasons.
But you know, there's so many possibilities, because once people start understanding that you can actually make more money, or whatever it is, whatever your motivation is, by having healthy families and by not having malpractice suits and not having this, it all comes around. But it takes, you're going to have to look at the long-term vision instead of immediate gratification.
I think we need an understanding of that unbroken lineage. We need to accept and acknowledge that it's been suppressed and oppressed for a very long time, and we need to accept who we all are right here and right now.
It's about the institution of that family, which is everything that's the macrocosm is in the microcosm. If we forget that that each of us serve that family, that's a soul, that each of us are souls, even the doctors.
I think in many regards, the feminine principle is beginning to stand up and push back against the male. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing. However, what's important is the acknowledgement of both sides through this process. The crisis is here, and it's coming. And, you know, I sincerely hope that, you know, we can get through it.
I would say that it's coming around. You know, we have been led by a male-dominated society for quite some time, and what's happening is one of the things in our faith background is the equality of men and women. That's also the equality of masculine and feminine virtues in the world is prevalent. So we're having a whole paradigm shift to where men can be compassionate, they can be loving, they can be understanding, they can be all these things that normally was taboo.
what has to happen is that the masculine has to redefine itself. Clearly, society has it wrong because it's not working. It's just not working.
We are human, like the old Indian, chiefs used to say is, we're not human beings having a spiritual life. We're spiritual beings trying to have a human life.
And it may be that we need to go back to the Native Americans, to the indigenous people, and ask them for help. We didn't listen. We persecuted them. We genocided them. We broke all of our treaties and words with them, and it's coming back on us. And maybe that's a place to start. That we need to go back to the indigenous people and ask them for help in redefining our role in society. Because they had it down. They really did. They had the wisdom.
It's that moment that she is an individual entity, that she's come onto this planet and that she exists as herself. And to experience that moment that she becomes her. All. Moment of all is a beautiful term, yes.
It's our responsibility as a society to do everything possible to make sure that that is protected.
What would be really great is that as the energy shifts, as the feminine principle begins to find more strength and more movement in the balancing of society, that it remains open to compassion and to listening and to forgiveness. Because
I don't think placing blame, and I don't think fighting against a system is that beneficial. I think working to create a new system and working to educate people now in what we know is the way to move it forward, and it's going to take a long time.
It's all about balance. It's all about finding that center point. It's not about extremes. Extremes, no matter where they are, they're always destructive. So that's what I would hope would be the positive result of this change.
That first and foremost, we need more people who understand the physiologic process of birth and how to keep it safe and protected. And I think that begins with more people being educated about it. That's what I say when I think we need more people. And no, I mean, do I think we need more overworked obstetricians and family doctors and midwives that are fighting against a system and that are feeling pushed down and scared and that are all of those things? No, I don't think there's any perfect practitioner, but I think they need to be trained in a different way. I think that people need to be educated. They need to be educated about what you're talking about. They need to be educated about the sacredness of birth and protecting the mother-baby bond. And I think that needs to be a core part of the education of midwives and doulas and anyone who's present at birth. I absolutely do. I think it needs to be a part of the standard curriculum. I think we need more education, and that education needs to come from a very holistic, baby-centered connection focus.
And the male principle has to step up. It has to be honest enough that it can look at itself and say, my God, what are we doing?
that mother-infant separation is so important for the development of aggressiveness in a culture that has to be controlled by the experts.
Look at the path we're on and project itself like the Native Americans used to teach. They would try to see 7 generations in advance based on the decisions that they would make for the tribe. They would look 7 generations. Is this a good idea to do this, to make this type of change? If Western society could honestly do that, I think they would see something that was so horrific that it would shock them out of the coma that they're in of violence.
It may be that in times of peace, that leaving mothers and babies together is what we need so that we can be peaceful, but in times of war, since we have to raise a warrior generation, we need to separate them, and so that may need to stay in the hands of the elders so that even subconsciously they may be controlling that.
Because this isn't going to end well if we continue to propagate war, death, destruction, suppression, tyranny, slavery. It isn't going to work.
So we're having a whole paradigm shift to where men can be compassionate, they can be loving, they can be understanding, they can be all these things that normally was taboo. And the same thing with the institutions. They have to switch or it is time for them to perish.
So we were talking about the African American community and how it's a canary. And out of this has emerged, if having an empowered birth at home with a woman who knows her body and is supported, has the greatest care, and she's allowed to follow her body and her instincts, if this can change the lives so dramatically of African American men, imagine what it can do in our society for a man to be empowered by his baby's birth.
Just by being it, it's healed us so much by sacrificing the time and singing and dancing and putting her to sleep. And so it's really healed both of us. And right now, internally, I feel there's the feeling that I can feel on the inside is like it's like my body is not really blood. It's just like a buoyancy is what I feel just sharing that to you. So that's powerful.
With this right here, it's copper to go. Come on.
I don't know what you've been told. I don't know what you've been told.
How we supposed to know what y'all been told? With this right here, it's copper to go.
Think you know what? Don't know the half. In the left,
what?
Perfecting the craft. Made a million,
yo,
so please do the math. Give up my will, so straight is me.
She don't be
messing around with them clowns that frown.
She do get
down, expound these nouns like rounds. With renown that is down.
Crowds dig her sound.
Best in my class comes the masses
crown pound for pound.
Been rapping for years, but Hollywood I'm brand new.
But she's white.
That's right, well treat me like a breakthrough. Long overdue, don't misconstrue was not
Pronto.
Spent years of analysis.
Polishing her debut.
Like paralysis, we're gonna
Change your worldview.
I'm not a one-hit wonder, and this is not a drive. You could run through with the revenue because I'm trying to choose.
And you can
miss me with that foolishness and all this.
Whoop-de-doo.
I don't know what you've been told. I don't know what you've been told. I was supposed to know what show been told. But this right here is how it goes. Come on. I don't know what you've been told. I don't know what you've been told.
That's the father's role, is from the beginning to have his heart open wide so the baby has a place in his heart to be safe and to learn how it is we deal with this world.
So the last part, the last key to that little puzzle is that the way we transform that pain is by doing something about it. And so this is the work. And we are not only are we the generations alive today who carry the pain, we're the generations alive who also have the gift of transforming that pain and bringing this to an end.
You know, the fathers would welcome training if you would just give it to them. They want to be full participants, and it would be better for the baby. And if you think making better babies is the way to make a better world, you better start, you know, including the fathers, because in the beginning, they're half the equation. From the beginning.
That is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because yes, we have rights when we go into a hospital, but often we don't know our rights. And just as we have rights, that baby has rights. 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 And who is the one to determine what those rights of that baby are? The parents. So if the parents don't feel empowered by knowing their own rights and by knowing their own rights of their baby, we can't leave it up to strangers that are working in a hospital.
You know, while you're pregnant or while your wife is pregnant, man, dude, you better get going because it's a big deal. And it can be the most remarkable thing too, because the more you learn about this stuff, then you realize what an opportunity you have with a young human being and the potential that that child, all of them, I don't care who they are, the potential of these children, if they're treated kindly and with respect and dignity and honor and you know, and love all the way, you know. If we do that, man, they're capable of doing things that nobody could even imagine.
We're the ones who must guard the sacredness of their entrance into life. We are the ones. It has to be us. We as everyone.
Where there once was wounding, oh, I would see the light shine through.
Namaste. The light in me sees the light in you.
Oh, find a way, oh, find a way, oh, find a way to me, and let that light find a way to you. Oh, mercy, mercy, oh, mercy. Can you find a way now to come on through? Oh, mercy, mercy, mercy. Let me feel you. Let me feel you. Oh, I have walked the world a long enough time to know that there are things that need to be shown, to help us see that there are other ways and other days and other times that we can come home. So I'll ask myself.
Well, the choice was made up to whether you wanted to or not, but when we got married, it said, for better or for worse, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in case of trouble came. And I find today that they're not quite as excited about having a child. It may not be the same father or the mother. I see them in church and they just, they don't seem to care whether they got them or not.
So you were excited?
You weren't?
I'm just asking you.
Well, I'm asking you, weren't you?
Was I excited to be born or was I excited to have children?
Both.
Sure.
Well, like I never got that out of her.
Well, I'm the interviewer.
I didn't know what to
But I have my rights too.
You're all up about the Constitution, huh?
Well, the Constitution gives us the right to get married. It gives us the right to live in America and have the freedoms in it. Why should our freedoms be taken away from us when we have a child born?
Bring us all back home.
How much, I mean, what are we supposed to give up?
Where we're not alone, and we can be much kinder. Simply a reminder. Yes, we can be much kinder. And let the mercy through. Can be much kinder. Let the mercy through. We can be much kinder. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than any one of us. Somehow we all know it's true, that it's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. gonna take all of us to see this through. Bigger than all of us ever have seen before. But somehow we know that we can restore what's been needed for a long time, but now we are here. Needed for so long, but have no fear that the heart of the healing is oh so near, bigger than all of us, bigger than me. Bigger than all of us, we came here to see that the heart of the healing is the heart of the matter. And that's the only way we're gonna find our clue, that the heart of the healing is the heart of the matter. It's true. It's bigger than me, and it's bigger than you, bigger than all of us together. But somehow we will find what's true. The heart of the healing is the heart of the matter, is the heart of the situation. And it's the place where we gonna see the healing of a nation. It's a celebration, 'cause it's bigger than me, and it's bigger than you, and it's bigger than all of us together. Yes, it's bigger than me, and it's bigger than you, and it's bigger than all of us together. Yes, it's bigger than me, and it's bigger than you, and it's bigger than all of us together. 'Cause when love comes around, then we know that we're found, and we know that this love, it lasts forever. 'Cause it's bigger than me, and it's bigger than you, and it's bigger than all of
First,
us.
he had to be taken the forceps, so they thought that this one would be too. I knew what labor felt like, and I knew she was coming. I could feel she was coming. So he called the nurse, and she told me to calm down. I was getting hysterical. So after she left, then they kept on going, and I told him the baby's coming. So he ran down to get her, and by the time he got back up, she was born, and she was laying there on the bed, kicking and moving around. And I said, now look and see if she ain't here. The first time The first time I told him to look, he didn't believe me either, and I said, "You just look," because I had reached down and I could feel the hair on her head. She'd come that far. So I told him, I said, "Now you look." And he did. That's when he went flying looking for the nurse.
And that nurse told me, the doctor told you.
The nurse said what?
The nurse said, the doctor said it would be a while. He went home to eat supper and he'll be back after a while. He says, probably going to be another hour or two. And I said, she's already had it. And she says, what did I just tell you? And I said, I just told you the baby's here. She says, I don't believe that. And I says, well, come and see. So she did. And then here she says, I don't believe it. She had not dilated. She done it all at once. And he didn't believe it either. And so she cost $50 to have her